What's up, Met fans? Welcome back. Talking Mets with Rob. How's everybody doing? Before I get started talking about the 5 possible Mets that might not be back here in 2022, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos, and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, guys. So, guys, the 5 New York Mets that I think possibly might not be back with the New York Mets in 2022 is going to be a very interesting list. We're going to get to it right now, starting with number 5 on the list, who is none other than J.D. Davis. Why did I choose J.D. Davis as the most likely to possibly come back to the New York Mets in 2022? A lot of people might not like this, but I do think J.D. Davis, who I'm very critical of defensively, I think he would be the best option out of these 5 guys that can be the perfect DH in 2022 if the DH is part of the CBA going forward. I do think J.D. Davis, if he was healthy, would be the perfect DH for this New York Mets team. I truly believe that if you can get him off the field, make him bat, be the primary DH, I do think J.D. Davis would thrive in that role. And I do think health-wise, if he can get past that wrist injury, he will be the perfect DH for the New York Mets. We're going to look at his stats right now in 2021. So we're going to look at it right now, guys. J.D. Davis played in 73 games. Obviously, he played a lot less games than he did in 2019 and 2020 because of the wrist injury. He averaged 285, on-base percentage of 384, OPS of 820, 23 RBIs with only 5 home runs. Once again, guys, he dealt with that injury from the first series of the year all the way through the end of the season. Continued to have problems, had surgery on the wrist. He will be, if he's healthy, he will be the New York Mets DH, guys. I feel very confident in that because not only can he hit for average, which he did hit 285, which I think he can hit around that average, playing 120 to 130 games at the DH spot. I feel very confident he can hit 25 to 30 home runs, knocking 70 to 80 RBIs. Obviously, the on-base percentage is going to go up, and OPS is going to go up if he's healthy because he's shown in 2019 and 2020 that he can hit. That's why I put J.D. Davis at number 5, guys, on the list for most likely could come back in 2022 to be the primary DH for the New York Mets team. Going down to number 4, and that is none other than our left fielder, Dominic Smith. Some people might say, why would you put him 4 and not 5? The reason why I say that is because Dominic Smith does not have a position on this team. He is not a left fielder. As much as we want him to be a left fielder, he is not a left fielder, guys. He struggled defensively. He did get better, but he is still not an everyday left fielder, and it's hurt this team defensively. And the reason why the Mets put him as the everyday left fielder was because of that bat that he can do so much damage with, that he showed he can do damage in 2020. But in 2021, the Mets made him the starting left fielder because they thought he would be able to hit, and he did nothing with the bat in 2021, guys. The other reason why I put Dominic Smith at number 4 for most likely not being on this team is because he can be possible trade bait in the offseason, guys. There's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for first baseman. He is a very good to great first baseman defensively. And if he can find his bat, he'll be a very good trade target for many teams. And I do think the Mets are going to use Dominic Smith in a trade during the offseason, either for a pitcher or for an offensive player. That's why I put him at number 4. We're going to look at Dominic Smith's 2020 stats right now, guys. So he in 145 games, he stayed healthy. He played every day. Averaged 244, on-base percentage of 304, OPS of 667, 58 RBIs with 11 home runs. That is not what the Mets were looking for. The only thing that came out of Dominic Smith that was good was that he played almost every day. 145 games is very good. What the Mets look for is someone who can play and be on the field every day. Dominic Smith did that, but the bat was very, very quiet. If he would have performed the way he did in 2020, Who knows? The Mets could have been like, we can't really have him in left field, but it is a possibility. But maybe he would be that DH that everybody's expecting to have in 2022, and maybe JD Davis wouldn't even be on this list. But because of the problem with his bat, and we don't know if he couldn't adjust to the pitchers adjusting to him, that's why I think Dominic Smith is number 4 on this list and possible trade bait in the off season, guys. So Dominic Smith at number 4. Going down to number 3, and this is going to shock a lot of people, but I think it's number 0, Marcus Stroman. There's 2 reasons why I do think Marcus Stroman is number 3 and is number 3 on the list of least likely to be back on this Mets team in 2022 is because, number 1, it's going to be a lot of teams after him. A lot of competition for the New York Mets to get Marcus Stroman, which leads to my second point. Marcus Stroman is going to cost a lot of money to bring back to this Mets rotation. That's a problem because I can see the Mets going maybe 5 years, 100. That's probably the highest limit they would go for Marcus Stroman, but I think Marcus Stroman is going to get more, especially when there's competition. You know, you can say the Mets, you can say the Phillies, you can say the Yankees, you can say the Rangers, the Braves. There's so many teams, a few in our division, that need pitching, and that's going to drive the price up. And Marcus Stroman is in a prime spot to make a lot of money this year, guys. And that's why I think number 3 on the list, Marcus Stroman, is going to be very tough to get this guy back because of the competition he is going to get to acquire or to get him as a free agent. And I do think Marcus Stroman will be perfect for this rotation, even though I am a little critical of him pitching his best season in his career on a contract year scares me. But there's no doubt that he can be very consistent for this New York Mets team. He can be a solid number 3. He was basically a solid number 2 and basically the ace of the staff when DeGrom went down. But he can be a solid number 3 if everybody's healthy in this rotation, guys. And the problem the Mets are going to have is the competition. So we're going to look at Marcus Stroman's stats in 2021. They were excellent, guys. 33 games, which is very good for a pitcher. ERA at 3.02. 179 innings pitched, gave up 17 home runs, struck out 158 batters, walked only 44 in 33 games in 179 innings. That is Cy Young material. He struggled in a couple of games that gave him, the Pittsburgh game, that was bad. There was a couple of games where he just pitched really bad this year. Not a lot, obviously. There was maybe 2 or 3, but that hurt him ERA-wise, which probably hurt him in the Cy Young voting as well. But there was other pitchers that were obviously better than him. But Marcus Stroman at number 3, because of the competition that that the Mets are gonna have trying to sign him, is gonna be very difficult for the Mets to actually give him the best offer, because he will be going to the best offer. And that's why I put Marcus Stroman at number 3 as least likely to be on the New York Mets in 2022. Coming in at number 2 is the feisty flying squirrel Jeff McNeil, guys. The reason why I put Jeff McNeil on number 2, well, it seems like the Mets are all in on Baez, and if they do get Baez, that knocks Jeff McNeil out of second base. That's a problem, because if Jeff McNeil is knocked out of second base because of the Javi Baez signing through for the Mets, I don't trust Jeff McNeil to play third base on an everyday basis. So that leaves him with not many options, because if the Mets somehow go out and get Chris Bryant, he's probably going to be either your third baseman or right fielder. Jeff McNeil can play the outfield. He can play left field. But I don't know if the Mets want to put him back in the outfield in 2022 and beyond. So, because Jeff McNeil is not great at third base, I think it's going to cause him to be off this team in 2022, which leads to my point of him probably being trade bait just as much as Dominic Smith, because he does have value. There's a lot of teams that probably think he can hit for average again, hit for power, and be a solid second baseman for their team. And that's why if Jeff McNeil can be on the trade block, there's a pretty good chance the Mets know that they're probably going to have to get rid of Jeff McNeil, not only because he doesn't have nowhere to play, But the news that came out about the whole incident with Lindor, with the raccoon incident, we heard that Jeff McNeil didn't listen to defensive positioning by Luis Rojas and basically played where he wanted to. That's a bad sign. I can get past the other stuff. Not great defensively. Hurt his average a little bit with the power. Got into an altercation with Lindor. I can deal with all that. But I can't deal with a player who consistently does not listen to defensive positioning because he didn't want to. That's a bad sign. That just hurts. It takes away the relationship from the manager to the player. And then with all this team camaraderie that the Mets apparently had but didn't, it hurts the team's chemistry, and I don't want to see that. And with Jeff McNeil, it's unfortunate because I do like him. I think he can hit 300 again. He played in 120 games. He did have a hamstring injury, but we're going to look at Jeff McNeil's stats in 2021. He played in 120 games, batted .251, which is very, very lower than he is projected to hit every year. He's a 300 hitter. He just has to get back to that. On-base percentage of .319, OPS of .679, 35 RBIs with 7 home runs. Not good. And again, the same thing with Dominic Smith. If you're not great defensively, if you're not playing the defensive position your manager wants, you turn into a problem. And if you don't perform with the bat, now you're just useless to this team. And the same issue with Dominic Smith. If you're not going to perform, you're not going to play the field. If you're not going to bat, you're not going to hit the way you're supposed to, you and Dominic Smith are not going to be on this team. Why I think Jeff McNeil is going to be trade bait this offseason. So look out for that as well. Is why I put Jeff McNeil at number 2. Last but not least, number 1, Michael Conforto. This is not a shocker, guys. As soon as Michael Conforto declined the qualifying offer from the New York Mets, there's about a 90% chance that Michael Conforto is gone from this Mets team. I don't expect him to be back in 2022 and beyond. I think he's definitely going to go elsewhere. It seems like somebody's going to give him $100 million, which is amazing with the season he had in 2021, which we'll get to in a few seconds. Michael Conforto, I thought was going to be a 280, 290 hitter, hit 30 home runs, knocking 90 to 100 RBIs, have a high on-base percentage, have a high OPS, slugging percentage, all that. I thought he was the full package. He got better defensively every year. His defense is great. His arm is excellent. But in 2021, we'll get to it right here, guys, he was absolutely terrible in a contract year. He played in 125 games, 232 average, 14 home runs, 55 RBIs, 344 on-base percentage, OPS of 729. Not good at all, guys. It's very difficult to see a homegrown talent like Michael Conforto leave this team when he was supposed to be one of the core players on this team for his entire career. But the biggest problem is that he was so inconsistent, and it came to a head this year. He was absolutely terrible, and I don't think you can give a guy and trust a guy, especially when you have guys on the free agent market that can easily replace him. We know who they are. Nick Castellanos, Chris Bryant. We know who those guys are. There's 2 guys right there that you can probably trust a lot more than Michael Conforto. And that's why he is at number 1. Not only he didn't accept the qualifying offer. I don't think the Mets are going to go past or even close to $100 million to bring back Michael Conforto. Somebody's probably going to give Michael Conforto $100 million. That is your top 5 New York Mets not coming back. Most likely not coming back in 2022, guys. Don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy all my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Met fans, it's going to be an interesting offseason. Those are my top 5 that I don't think might not be back in 2022. Hit on that like button, guys. Hit on that subscribe button, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about my 5 guys on the list. Who would you put on that list? But we do have some honorable mentions, guys. And those guys are... On the list is Noah Syndergaard, Javier Baez, Juris Familia, Aaron Loup, and Jonathan VR. Those are some honorable mentions for you guys. before I let you guys go. Those are the honorable mentions right there that are not on the top 5. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.